Hello and welcome to Hikima Council's Makala Podcast channel. Makala, meaning branches, Kasisuthu. My name is Amanda Masondo and I'm your host. We hope this podcast finds a way to impact, educate, and inspire your next. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Buzzsprout. Basically everywhere where you find your podcast fix. Every first and last Friday of every month. Hello and welcome to Hikima Council's Makala Podcast. I am your host, Amanda Masondo, and as per usual, welcome to the evolution. We're taking entrepreneurs' stories and we're getting inspired, we're getting lessons, we're getting all the good stuff. So please stay tuned with us every first and last Friday of every month. That's where you get your podcast fix. Please remember to like and subscribe. You guys, you don't want to miss out. So I don't want you guys to miss out on anything. So please like and subscribe and follow us on all our platforms. That is Hikima Council, and then it's under Makala. My guest today, you see, if there's ever been a topic that is my passion project, my personal favorite out of all the investment classes, is property. And I got you the right person. I got you the person that knows exactly how to get into and out of, and the little nooks and crannies that you can discover in this world of property that seems to elude a lot of us. My guest today, she is an entrepreneur. She's a property investor, and she's also the chairperson of Sakhisizwe Property Stokvel. Her name is Slindile Leseyane. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Amazing stuff. Before we get into the fabulous world of property, let's talk about Sli, the person. Where were you born and raised?
Sure. I was born in Pitratif, which is a small town in Mpumalanga, but my earlier years were sort of spent between KZN, because my mom's family is from KZN and my dad's family is from Pitratif in Mpumalanga. So my very early years were sort of split between the two, but mostly in Pitratif in Mpumalanga. That's where I spent most of my youth, and came to Joburg to study ADVETS, to do my BCom in accounting and economics. And that was my first foray into the big city, and I've stayed here ever since. You know how it goes.
Yeah. You never leave.
You never leave, right? So then after finishing my studies, I started working in corporate, mostly in the financial services industry. And and I think right now I live in Midrand with my husband and 3 children.
Time flies, most.
Yeah. And a lot has happened in between, but yeah.
Fantastic little summary of the journey. Okay. And then you tap into the world of entrepreneurship. Tell me how that happens, and how is the transition between doing corporate and then going to entrepreneurship? How did you transition?
I don't think I went into it saying I want to get into entrepreneurship, right? Yeah. I had never been one of those people. You know, some of the entrepreneurs, they talk about how at school they were selling a stock suite and a scopas. I had never done none of those things. That was not me.
Yeah.
But I think in a way, because I remember when I was choosing the career that I wanted to pursue, I was drawn to accounting. And the reason why I wanted to be in accounting was I thought, okay, in accounting, you can work in any company, any industry, anywhere in the world. All businesses need an accountant. So I was like, I'm never going to be without a job.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I thought I can either work for a specific company or I can work for my own company and do accounting services for other people. So I guess subconsciously it was there, but I never actually had a business. So I think my foray into business really started with the whole Stokvel thing, right? I started my property journey by just buying properties that I lived in, and then I bought one rental property, and that was it, right? And so one day I'm on Facebook and I see this post. Somebody talks about, we're in this big group. I can't remember which group it was. And there's so many of us. If each of us can just contribute 1,000 rand, imagine what we could do, right? We could buy malls, we could buy land, and take over the world, all those kind of things.
Wakanda forever.
We build our own Wakanda. And I thought, actually, this guy's onto something, but how do you even start,
Yeah.
What are the legalities around it? How does it work? How do you get 1,000 people to buy in, to contributing 1,000 rand each, So then I started researching, because I was familiar with Stokvels, but I was familiar with the Stokvels that our parents and our grannies did, the grocery ones and the income rotating ones. But now I thought, okay, the very same concept can now be used for, for investing in property. And I was familiar with property because at home we had a back room, and like I said, I had my primary residence and I had one rental. So I sort of got it, right? So then I shared that screenshot with my friends, and they're like, yeah, I know, this is like a cool idea. Let's dig in, let's find out how this works. So I think then we're like, okay, no, this is a Stokvel, but in order to buy property, you need to set up a business, that's going to run the business of the property, right? Yeah. So I think that is how I then really got introduced into business per se. It was via the Stokvel route. I never intentionally went to say, I want to start a business.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I guess in theory, I'm an accountant. I actually don't know any accountants actually working as accountants. You're all entrepreneurs. I'm starting to see a little pattern.
I think we get tired of counting other people's money, and we're like, we want to be on the other side of this.
I want to be the CEO.
Yeah. So I think because we're familiar with numbers and we work with money all the time, so I think that's why, we end up saying, hi man, why am I counting other people's money?
I can also do it.
I can do it also, because, like when, and you notice that, as well, if you look at like the boards of listed companies, you'll find that they're very much leaning towards people with accounting skills, because accounting teaches, if you look at the financial statements of a company, they tell you the real story of what's happening in that business. And that is why accountants generally then tend to be the ones that, end up either being entrepreneurs or end up being in senior leadership of organizations.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Bunama room. There's rooms back home. But are they run as a business? How are they run?
No. They're very much street, somebody passes by and says, I have a room like I can room, good space, you move in.
There's no contract.
There's no contract, nothing. And the thing is, with the whole ama room concept, you unfortunately have to live with those tenants, which is, another element altogether. So
100%.
Very much informal. But, I think a lot of people in the townships and other areas, they're sleeping on the fact that they've got that income that's available. And it actually sustains families. And I saw it firsthand when my mom passed away, because she was a teacher, but as soon as she passes away, the certificate is out, everything is frozen. It stops, right, for a good 2 to 3 years while everything's being wrapped up. Now we've got no income and the family needs to continue surviving, right? And having that income tied us over until her things were sorted, buying food, electricity, those kinds of things. It wasn't to the same level, obviously, but it was enough to tie us over. And I think that is the importance of investing in something like property, because, we're all going to perish someday, but those properties are going to stay. They are still there till this very day. You know what I mean? So it really is worthwhile to invest. Yes, you may start informally, but then you learn the ropes and you formalize your business as you go.
Yeah. Okay. So now you stumbled over entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
That is clear. But what did you know about entrepreneurship before, and what do you know now, and what are some of the differences, things that you thought, that was a little glamorous, but that's not what's going on inside?
I think, honestly speaking, if I knew what I know now, I probably wouldn't have gone into it.
Don't say that. Man.
I promise you, because, so I really thought, you go into a business, you're the big boss, you call the shots, you make all the money, and you ride off into the sunset with lots and lots of money.
And you determine your own diary,
the
calendars.
Yeah. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, that's not what happens. And I think what I soon realized about entrepreneurship is, how much it's about risk-taking and accountability. Because especially when still starting out, everything rests on you. You are the office manager, you are the marketing director, you are the accountant, you are the salesperson, you are literally everything in that business, especially when still starting out. And I think the biggest differentiator, sort of being like an employee or being an entrepreneur, is that an employee, you sort of get into a comfort zone of some sort, because you know that your money is going to come at the end of the month, right? You can even cruise at work, do the bare minimum. Come month end, your money comes, Whereas if you're an entrepreneur, you have to constantly drive sales and income. If you slack, it reflects.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the difference. And in some instances, you've got bills to pay. You may have staff. You may have suppliers. So you actually end up working way longer than you would as an employee, because now if things don't come together, it's all on you. You can't blame anyone. You know, and so I think that for me was the biggest realization in terms of what moving from that employee to, you know, going into the entrepreneurship side, that, you know, that there's just so much more that is expected of you.
Yeah. Because at the end of it, I'm an accountant. I'm trying to give you the accountant term for it because I know you guys. When your bills, they don't wait for you, because all of a sudden they entrepreneur, they don't care. As you're writing down your bills monthly, your debt is waiting for you. So if you sleep, your debt's still gonna come knocking.
They're gonna come knocking.
100%. Okay, so let's talk about the property sector.
Yeah.
You clearly fell in love with it at some point, because how did you know to buy your first property versus renting it? And then how did you get into renting it out?
Okay, so when I started working, I rented a place. I stayed in Pretoria in Makala. It's right next to Sunnyside. For my first job, I rented, and then after the first year, and rent was still cheap back then. I think it was like 2.5 for one bedroom. But anyway,
anyone could have rented. You could have rented for your whole life. Is what it looks like.
You know what I mean? So, but then at the time, I did the maths, and I'm like, I've spent so much money this year renting. How about I actually then buy my own place? You know, I'm still young enough. I'll pay it off over the years, and so I decided, at the following year, I'm actually going to buy my property, and I started looking for a property. I had no idea. You know, if I think back, sometimes we just sign things and it's like, as in, we just signed, you bond your life away. And the thing is, it's such a big commitment.
Yeah.
You know, you're signing a 20-year bond, and the papers are this thick, you know. But anyway, I signed because it's really what I wanted. I was like, no, I can't be paying rent. Let me buy a property. I bought a 2-bedroom apartment in Midrand. Very nice apartment, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, you know. At the age of 23, that was my first property. And the idea was I was going to stay there for as long as possible. I wanted it to be comfortable. If I've got visitors, there's space. And I didn't want like a bachelor or whatever. So fine, I moved in, and this was now 2007, right? So 2008, the interest rates were going up, and I soon found myself struggling to keep up with the rent. So I thought to myself, but I've got a 2-bedroom apartment. Why am I not renting out the other room so that I can get extra income to help me to pay for the bond? And then that was my first foray really into property entrepreneurship in my own right.
If I can call that.
101, and I went online and I created a listing, all of that. I did the proper things, because the thing is, I was like, I'm going to live with this person. And I knew from home, sometimes we have troublesome tenants. And this one was going to be in the room, in the house with you.
Yeah, not even the yard.
So I had very specific criteria. I wanted a young professional like me, you know, and all of those things. So I had to actually even interview them, you know, to make sure that this is the person that I can live with. Yeah, so that was my first, putting a listing, interviewing a tenant, selecting them, screening them, yet they can pay, and all of those things. And so that's how I got my first tenant, really, who then lived with me in that property. And obviously then things stabilized, and then she moved on with her life, and but then when I was like, okay, this was actually quite nice having that extra income, and now I've lost it. So how about I get another property that I can place a tenant who's still going to give me the money? That's when I then bought the first flat that I bought, but it was like a 1-bedroom. Yeah. So I still have both of those properties till today.
Because that was you saw this?
Yeah, that's how I started.
Amazing. Okay. And then Sakhisizwe property Stokvel. How does that come about?
So, like I said, it came about when I first saw that post on Facebook, and I thought, this actually has got merit. Shared with my friends and thought, guys, how about we do something like this, you know? And I formed a Stokvel group. We started off very well, but it didn't work out. And even though it didn't work out with those specific people, I still believed in the concept. And so I thought, okay, obviously now we'll do things differently. I still believed that it can work. It's just the people that I was with
At the
time, it didn't work. But the concept, I truly believe that can work. So that is how then Sakhisizwe was born, as like a second opportunity to start over, with the lessons learned from the first group that didn't work, that, this is how it can work. So yeah, I started in 2019. So this is our 5th year. So and I think it's been going strong. That's how really, like I said, I really just believe in property being, the ultimate wealth creator, wealth equalizer, because, unlike, salaries and all those things, they are open to discrimination, inequality, and all of those things. Whereas with property, it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care if you're blue, black, pink, white, female, non-binary or whatever.
Yeah.
If the property costs R1 million, it's R1 million. No matter who you are.
Yeah.
If the rental is 10,000 rand for a 2-bedroom, everybody pays the 10,000. I know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I said, I also realized that, one day I may not be around. So my children must continue to benefit from my work, because why should, after 40, 50 years of slogging or whatever, I pass away and then whatever I got to show for it? A tombstone.
That's exactly what so many families leave behind. Justin J.
She lived and she died.
A stone, cold stone. Ow, my
So I want them, when they pass by and they're like, yeah, that's mine.
They once lived.
Yeah.
Lady called Slee.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk us through some of the reasons why the first one didn't work. If you could pinpoint a few things that you thought, this is the reason why that set of people was not the right set of people to start the Stokvel with. What didn't work?
I would say we were not aligned in terms of the expectations, because when it's like your idea and then people expect you to do all of the work, and then they don't want to compensate you or in any way they are not, like would say, okay guys, let's go and view a property, nobody shows up and nobody does anything really. So I found myself that, but why am I here? Like I'm alone most in this thing. And I think I also learned a very important lesson in that sometimes you have expectations of people and those expectations are not realized. Like, for example, I thought that we were all going to come together. Yes, we were contributing money, but we're all then going to contribute the labor as well. But the other members were like, we'll put the money, you do all the work. And I'll make you an example. When we started because we were all at different phases and understanding of the property industry, and we said, okay, for the first year, while we raise money, we put in our constitution, right, to say we will spend the time to upskill our knowledge as much as possible. Before we even buy the first property, we need to know the ins and outs of this industry. So during our meetings, we had to prepare a presentation or something that can, empower the group. That could be either, share a YouTube that you watched, what are your key takeaways, an article you read, you want to a radio interview, or you found somebody on Facebook that you think, we could benefit from learning from, or whatever the case might be. And we actually put penalties. We're supposed to do 2 of those things per member in a year. And we put a penalty to say, if you don't do that, then it's 500 Rand penalty.
Okay.
And let me tell you, they chose to pay the penalty.
Rather.
You understand?
Because so then every year, that's going to be the status quo.
So I'm the one that is doing all this research, presenting on, and I was just like,
Sure.
So I think for me, where my eyes, because we did really well in terms of raising money, and I think that's when I realized, Guti, there's a lot of money. People love investing. They like the idea of investing property, but they don't necessarily like doing the work.
Yeah,
because it is work, and I think that's why some people don't even get into the property because they think, oh, what if my tenants don't pay? What if my property gets vandalized or this and this and that? So they just get into that analysis paralysis, right? And I thought, I feel that, especially that year, I really took it seriously because I thought, we're going to be investing in property. All along, my mom was winging it. When I started, I was winging it. But if we're going to do this professionally, we need to learn. I even invested in a property coach. I went and I attended property lessons, I really, really went deep in it. And after that year, even though I walked away from that group, but I what I walked away with was the knowledge, right, in terms of, the ins and outs of property, but then I also walked away with the knowledge that don't force people into doing things if they're not ready for it. So with Sakhisizwe, how the model changed was that we then said, okay, we're going to create an executive committee. We will do the work. The members, they have to contribute. They don't have to if they don't want to do anything.
Okay.
Because now we don't want to put that expectation on people, because that's when you get disappointed.
Yeah.
We set up a working committee and we say, we are the ones that will go and find the properties, deal with all the contracts, deal with the negotiations, deal with the tenants. You guys don't have to, and that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how does it work now? So there's a working committee, and do they get paid by the Stokvel?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
you see.
Yeah.
So talk me through the whole scenario, right?
Yeah.
If somebody is sitting at home and they're thinking, this is a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
We either want to join your Stokvel or want to start our own.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that you feel are the beginner class?
Yeah.
Like class 101, property Stokvel 101. What do they need?
I think the property Stokvel concept is broad.
Okay.
So firstly, you need to understand what kind of property Stokvel you are joining. What is it that you're signing up for, and what are the expectations out of everyone, right? And so you need to formalize that as well in the form of a constitution, etc. And then you need to say, okay, what kind of entity are we going to set up? We're going to open a company. Who's going to be in the leadership or the management of that particular entity? Because we can't have 10, 20, 50, 30 people, 100 people making a decision.
Yeah.
You need to provide certain people, much like how in companies you've got shareholders and you've got directors.
Yeah.
The shareholders give the directors the mandate to say, buy us a property for under R1 million in a grade suburb, for example, Sandton or whatever the case might be. So now we know that we must look for property under R1 million in Sandton or similar suburb or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So that's the mandate from the members. Then the executive committee then executes on that mandate.
Gotcha.
So it's clear, because otherwise we then just go back and forth, and there's no progress. And obviously the proper financials must be kept, and also just transparency and communicating with the members. This is what's happening. I think, especially with Sakhisizwe, the one thing that I felt we did, and because of my previous experience, was that I really wanted to educate the members in everything. If we are buying a property, this is why, these are the numbers, these are the risks, these are the benefits. So really just taking them through the entire process so that everybody understands. And even though maybe you are not involved in the day-to-day operations, but you walk away understanding how property works, So I think in terms of if someone is sitting at home and thinking, I would like to start a Stokvel, I would say find people who are like-minded and understand that they want to invest in property, and then just set up a structure of how it's going to work, and then just flesh that out. And if you need to get an attorney to help you draft it, then you do that as well, so that it's clear of how is this thing going to work, and what are the pros and cons, and what are the roles and responsibilities, etc., etc.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe just let's give for people for concept for people to get an understanding. If you talk about what they're going to be investing in, right? Let's unpack. If you're just buying a property and putting in tenants, or if you're buying a property and to fix up and sell, or if you're buying property shares and stock, and the differences between those few things.
Hence, I said in the early stages of the Stokvel, you need to be clear on what your investment model is, if I can call it that. If you're going to be investing passively, so investing passively means you just put your money away, somebody else does the work, like for example in shares or unit trust, ETFs, etc. So you can still do that. You can still invest in property that way. And then you can also do, like you're mentioning, flips, where you buy a property, you fix it up, you sell it. You can do the one where you actually then buy a property and put tenants, and you basically want to keep it for the long term. So all of that are possible strategies that you could use. So you just need to be clear in terms of what is it that you want to do, because they're all very different.
Yeah.
And so what we do at Sakhisizwe specifically is we don't do flips, because we want to keep property as an investment in the long run.
Gotcha.
So we buy properties that we want to keep and put tenants in.
Okay.
So the properties that we've bought are ABNB and student accommodation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how do you identify that this is a good property to buy, whether this is a good investment or not?
So we obviously do our research in terms of let's say, for example, we're looking at a student accommodation, what is the demand for student accommodation in that area, the prices, we run the numbers in terms of, okay, if we put X number of students, these are going to be our costs, therefore we are going to be able to make a profit here. And so much like how if you were to buy a property as yourself, you need to do that analysis, understanding the market, understanding the property, if you need to spend any money, like for example, if you're buying an Airbnb, yes, you're going to get the property, but then you need to put furniture and make it look nice, etc. So you need to understand all those upfront costs and what are the upkeep costs as well. And then it must still make profit, because ultimately we're doing this for investment.
Yeah. Maybe let's talk through, because ABNB is fairly new, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the South African context. Talk us through how you guys have been finding it so far. So you guys identified a property and you put it into ABNB. How was that process? Did you guys find it? Did you struggle at all with that process, or did you find it reasonably easy enough? And then what's been going on since? Are you finding it like good, difficult, abandoned, mastande vibes? Are we back there?
Okay, so I had Airbnb in my own capacity, so I was already familiar with how it works.
Okay.
So I didn't find it particularly challenging because when I bought it for the Stokvel, because I had already had exposure into Airbnb and I know all the ins and outs and stuff like that. So that's why I would say that went. So we bought the property last year. It's in Waterfall, and so the reason why we chose Waterfall was, Waterfall is becoming the new center. It's like becoming a business hub. There's lots of business travelers in the area. It's pretty central to everywhere you wanna go, and also where our Airbnb is. It's essentially the only residential place within the Waterfall that allows Airbnb. So we've got that unique advantage as well, and the building is quite nice. It's got a restaurant, it's got a spa. So I can tell you our occupancy is quite high on most times, sitting at 80% plus, in any given month. And so it's been doing really, really well since we launched it last year. And it's still going strong.
Yeah. So when you put, I guess, Waterfall, obviously, because it's a growing area, right? But if you were to identify areas, what is the right link for you to be? Are you trying to locate airports? Are you trying to airport? What needs to be the thing that you're looking out for?
So it needs to be an area where people would be frequenting regularly, right? So mostly focusing on business travelers as well as leisure travelers. So if you're looking at like coastal towns, Durban, Cape Town, those do really well for Airbnb, especially during the peak seasons. And then you also then want to look at other business areas or business hubs. So you'd look at, for example, in and around the Menlyn or the Menlo Park area in Pretoria. That's a business hub. You look at Waterfall, you look at Sandton, here in Joburg, for example. Those are business areas. So you want to find a place next to airports as well, because a lot of travelers in and out. So you want to find a place that has those kinds of activities. And for Waterfall as well, like I said, we've got those business areas, but we also have a hospital directly opposite the building. So you've got visiting doctors, people who've got their relatives or loved ones in the hospital that want to be close to them so they can look after them. So those also provide traffic. So you wanna, when you're looking at an area for Airbnb, you wanna think which kind of person would want to be here. You don't want to put an Airbnb in a remote area. Sorry, East Rand people, but you want to buy an Airbnb in Boksburg or Brakpan, because because like who goes there? You know what I mean? You want to
what is going on?
Is that it? You know what I mean? I'm just making an example. Sorry, East Rand people. I'm just making an example that you want to find an area that's got high traffic of people coming in and out of that area.
Okay. Slee, we spoke about Airbnb.
Yeah.
Let's go into the student accommodation.
Yeah.
We all know student accommodation, NAFSAs, strikes, all the things. How are you guys finding that sector?
Challenging.
I can imagine.
As you can see, we don't like easy things, ne?
You want difficult things.
You want difficult things. We want drama in our lives. We don't like peace. So I think NSFAS has got its challenges, and especially this year, there's been a lot of changes with the NSFAS board being disbanded and all of that. Yeah. So it has been challenging, but there's still a lot of opportunity within the space, right? And the student, the universities simply do not have the capacity to house the students within their own residences.
Yeah.
So they're always going to rely on landlords, right? They're always going to rely on private landlords to fill the gap. And as you mentioned that there have been strikes, it is because of the lack of accommodation or the quality of accommodation that's currently available to students, which then causes an issue. So recently, with the whole fees must fall and NSFAS came in, we've seen a lot of students now access, funding opportunities, and that has also driven the demand for accommodation because a lot of more people can now, study at universities, etc. So the opportunity is definitely there, the demand is definitely there, but it's just that there's some challenges with NSFAS. So you need to manage that risk.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to lie and say, student accommodation is the best. There are definitely challenges, and it is one of those things that require you to be able to, it's capital intensive, especially in the beginning, much like the ABNB, where you need to buy not only do you need to buy the property, but you need to furnish it.
Yeah.
So that's additional money that you need to put in. Similarly with student accommodation, not only do you have to buy the building, but then you have to meet the specifications for NSFAS and for the university that you are targeting students from. So normally NSFAS have got their own requirements, and then the university has their own additional requirements on top of that.
Okay.
So these requirements would include, for example, the sizes of the rooms for single and sharing, what you must provide, things like Wi-Fi, electricity, security, backup electricity. It depends on each institution, right, in terms of what they're looking for, safety, etc. So now you need to add all of those things onto the property, and then so that you can qualify to get accredited with the
this
university.
is even before you even have the funds. You don't even know if they're going to be accepted or approved.
Exactly, right? So, but however, you need to then say, okay, maybe in order to manage, and also NSFAS pays at specific tranches anyway. So you'll find that maybe they pay 2 or 3 times in a year.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to carry the students until you get paid, and sometimes there are delays.
Yeah.
So I think for us, the benefit of being a Stokvel is that we buy our properties cash, and so we are able to, we don't have the
Supplement the
pressure
overheads,
of
yeah.
having bonds and all of those things.
Got
We still
you.
need to keep the building afloat and all of that, but we are then able to withstand some of that. So if you are thinking of getting student accommodation, just be aware that you need to have reserves to be able to survive the periods. And then also another thing is that they pay between February and November.
Okay.
So, which is the academic year. So December, January, you're not getting any income. So you need to make sure that your cash flow can survive
Those 2 months.
2 months where there's no income. So it is challenging, but also very rewarding. And I'll give you an example. Say for example, you've got a 3-bedroom house, right? In a 3-bedroom house, let's say you can charge 10,000 rand rent. I'm just making an example.
Yeah.
But if you put students in that same 3-bedroom house, maybe let's say the rooms are big enough, you can put 2 students in each of the 3 bedrooms. Yeah. That's now 6 tenants. And the current NSFAS rate is between 4,000 and sort of 5,000 rand, depending on the area. So if let's say it's in a metropolitan area like Joburg, it's 5,000 rand per student. So now you are able to charge 6 times 5, which is 30,000 rand for the very same property. So that's the difference.
Yeah.
So it is lucrative, but it's got its pros and cons.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So do you have to go through the NSFAS process?
You don't have to. So some landlords choose not to get accredited with NSFAS because, like I said, they've got very specific things that they want, what you must provide in the rooms, etc., etc. So you can target private students, and you can also target bursary students. So there is that market as well, where some landlords don't even provide like furniture; they just provide a room, and you bring your own bed, fridge, etc. Whereas we target NSFAS, so we want to be compliant with NSFAS and the university that's within that area, so that we've got an option. So we can take private and bursary students, and we can also take NSFAS. So we want to limit ourselves, but some landlords choose not to get accredited.
Yeah.
It's not a must.
Hey, landlord. I mean, because there's also that missing middle, right, of students that don't qualify for
Exactly.
NSFAS. So the parents have no choice but to actually look for private entities.
So what we also do is we maintain a fine balance between a certain percentage of NSFAS students as well as cash and bursary students, so that if there's delays, at least there's some sort of income that's keeping us afloat in the meantime that comes from the self-funded and the bursary students.
Okay, interesting. Sure. I think my landlord, I'm pretty sure he made those beds himself because it was like a Burmaka plan. It was very tricky. But I understood the concept because, as much as we were from the East End, but there was only one bus. I remember specifically in varsity, there was only one bus leaving. Ihama was 6 a.m. every day. So if you have a class at 2 p.m., you're leaving to go to school at 6 a.m. every day. Because that's unless you want to take a taxi, which is more expensive.
Yes.
Whew, child. All of the things. Okay.
Yeah.
So now you are 5 years in, right?
Yeah.
You know what you know today. You said in the beginning that you wouldn't have done it again. But honestly, answer me honestly now. And that's one of my questions. Knowing what you know today, all the hurdles, the ups and the downs, would you recommend tapping into the property sector? And would you recommend a Stokvel as a way to do it?
Okay, maybe I didn't say it properly. I think I wasn't prepared for it.
Yeah, say it like that.
I wasn't prepared, of exactly what I was signing up for.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I do have my own property portfolio, but then I also have the one that I'm then obviously managing on the Stokvel.
Yes.
So I've got a bit of background. But when you're dealing with the Stokvel, you're also dealing with other people, and their own demands and expectations. So you need to manage that as well. So it's not just the property, it's also the people.
Yeah.
And some people get into investment, but they don't have the investment. They get excited at the concept, but they don't understand the what is involved with investment. Like for example, you come and you join, we buy a building, and next month when you want your money back. Like how? Because the money isn't sitting in the bricks and the cement that we just bought.
Yeah.
You understand? So just dealing with those dynamics. But I think, to be quite honest, we've got an amazing group and we barely have those kinds of issues. So I think, like I said, I think I would have been more prepared for what's to come in terms of just the workload and the expectations and managing everything. But would I recommend that somebody gets into property? Absolutely. Like I think I've overstated the benefits of investing in property, and that is why I even do coaching. For people that want to invest in property, that want to do ABNB, that want to do student accommodation. I run workshops that train other people because I believe in it. I've seen the difference that it's made in my life and some of my other clients and the people that attend my workshops lives. So definitely there is if you've got a person who's walked the journey, who already knows some of the pitfalls, and they give you the heads up front, like I was telling you, student accommodation, people get excited about, but then they don't understand. So we've been there, we understand, we give you the heads up front that you better have good reserves. So it's just some of those things, and a lot of people have some of the misconceptions, or they don't understand, they think it's too difficult or it's too complicated. Sometimes you just need somebody to just show you the ropes, and that's all that it takes.
100%. Lovely. You touched a little bit on the legalities, right?
Yeah.
Getting a lawyer. Talk me through the importance of that and what they actually need to look at. So if you're getting into this property Stokvel, even if it's just property, just knowing your ins and outs about this property world, what do I need a lawyer for?
I think having agreements that are written is important, because yes, we may talk and verbal agreements are binding, but but if it's written, we can all agree that this is what we agreed on, because now verbal agreements, it's he says, she says, right?
It's what I understood.
It's what I understood or whatever. So it's important that those agreements get drafted and that you have somebody that just sees it over as well. So what are the important things that you need to know is obviously what are my expectations, what am I hoping to get, what am I signing up for? Like I mentioned, there's different things that are involved. What are the decision-making structures looking like? All of those things, they need to be documented and need to be drafted. So when we started, we had an attorney that helped us draft the constitution. And even right now, we've got an attorney that is basically there all the time whenever we need legal advice. They sit on our board. And so you always just want to make sure that you color within the lines of the law, that you don't do anything that you shouldn't do, etc.
Yeah. Okay. But then the country is what it is.
Yeah.
The economy is what it is. Inflation showing us all of the frames. Interest rates are beyond high. People who are trying to sell their properties can't sell. I don't know whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. So across the board.
Yes.
How are you guys navigating those difficulties?
Well, everybody's feeling the pressure. Interest rates are high, inflation is high. Our salaries are not keeping up with the standard of living. Everything is just getting more and more expensive. But I believe that in every cycle there's opportunity, right? If you are on the buying side, there may be distressed sellers or people that find themselves in a tight squeeze and they can't afford to keep their properties. You can now come in and you can bargain with them. Maybe they bought their property quite a while ago. It's got equity. They can come down on the price a bit and you rescue them out of a situation whereby they stand to lose their home. So there's definitely those opportunities. And the other thing is, because we are at the top of the interest rate cycle, right? So I don't think it'll go up much higher, you know? So if you're buying now, it's as bad as it's gonna get, then it's gonna come down. Yeah. So if you can afford and not just qualify, but afford. Yeah. There's a difference. There's a difference. If you can afford, really now is the time to buy, because like I said, there's opportunity where maybe some people will be willing to sell their properties at a discount. And then you know that the interest rates are going to come down in the near future as well, hopefully, or at least stabilize where they are. Yes. Unlike somebody who bought maybe 2 years ago, during those COVID era,
when life was sweet,
when life was good, and now they've done this, and now you're finding yourself in trouble. So there's always going to be opportunities, really, if you're open to looking for them.
Because I've got a colleague of mine, every time the city is about to make an announcement, I'm not going down. Please tell me I increased because because you're right, because everybody went and they bought in the cycle when everything interest rates were down at their lowest levels. Even us, what you should have done was actually top up exactly on paying your bond at the time.
Or keep it where it was, because to be fair, the interest rates are plus minus where they were pre-COVID. And the reduction in the interest rates was a reaction to what was happening in the economy. So we knew the party wasn't going to last long. And the music was going to stop soon. We went in there hoping, but no, then, we soon got a wake up, but it doesn't work like that. It
really doesn't work like that at all. Okay, so now let's talk about if somebody wanted to join your Stokvel, what is the process? What do they need to do?
So
are you even taking new members before Mpape?
So we still are, but I think we this year we're planning on capping it and not taking on any new members. So we're just going to keep it open for a little bit more. Okay. So we use an app. It's called Stokvel. So if you are interested, I think the best way would be just to contact us, and then we would send you the information and how to join. So the beauty of it, like as I said, it's really based on an app. You sign up on the app and you request to join, and then then we'll complete the onboarding process. We will require your information, etc., for compliance purposes. But it's really that straightforward.
Okay. Just an app. And then for the coaching situation, how do they get hold of you for the because I assume the coaching is not within Sakhisizwe. That's your own brand.
That's my own thing on the side.
How do they get hold of you for that?
So do I need to provide my email address or
what? Email address, go ahead.
Okay, so they can contact me hello@meetslindiles.com. hello@meetslindiles.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Or they can contact us via the Sakhisizwe number, because they will direct it to me, 010-013-3409. 010-013-3409. That's the number.
Ladies and gentlemen, property mogul, Slee. Thank you.